Okay, good evening. My name is Bob Connors at 6 p.m. and I'd like to call the August 15th meeting, the Newbury Conservation Commission, to order. Sam, can you read the remote open meeting law preamble and take a roll call vote of members present?
Sorry, waiting for it to open up here. All right, as a preliminary matter, my name is Samantha Holt, Town Staff Conservation Agent for the Newbury Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Conservation Commission members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bob Connors.
Yes.
Brad Duffin.
Present.
Diane O'Brien.
Yeah.
Mary Rimmer.
Yes.
Mick Brown.
Yes.
TJ Conti.
Yes.
And Woody Knight.
Yes.
Good evening. This August 15th, 2023 open meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 during the state of emergency, which extends the governor's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2025. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to the commission members prior to the meeting for review and were posted on the Conservation Commission webpage for public access. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Proponents will be given 10 minutes to present. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. After they conclude their remarks, we will go down the list of commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees except commission members and staff, please remember to mute your computer using the mute button or your phone using *6 to toggle mute and unmute when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer unless you've been allowed to do so. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If commission members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and or ask questions as follows. I will seek questions and comments at the appropriate time through the Zoom raise hand function. For video conference participants, please to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click the yellow hand that appears. If you don't see a yellow hand, click on the participants button. A list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of this participant area, you will see an option to click on a raise hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more function next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone's keypad. We will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they appear listed on my screen based on when the function was selected. Each participant will be called upon to provide their name and address or affiliation, and we will afford 3 minutes to make questions or comments. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. The proponent or commission members will have the opportunity to reply as needed. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. We will then continue down the list of those in the raised hand column and again afford time for responses as needed. All participants are reminded that only matters which fall into the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission may be discussed. The chat feature has been disabled for this meeting, and everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner they would in an in-person meeting. Disruptions that impede operations of this commission will be addressed once by the chair and should be acknowledged by the disruptor. Further disruptions may result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Vulgar or obscene actions or comments will result in immediate removal from the meeting with no readmittance. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sam. All right, welcome everyone. Upcoming meeting dates, September 5th and September 19th. Meeting minutes. Team, we have the June 20th and the July 18th July 18th. Meeting minutes are in the Dropbox. I'm going to take them both separately. So on the June 20th meeting minutes, do we have any comments or corrections from the members? Mary?
Yeah, I had 2, and I think yes, 2. One that under 28 Riverfront, there's just a typo in the first line, and under administration. You're describing the discussion about the town policy adopted about the.
Oh, yep,
Here we go.
I see that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, there's two, one on the first line, and then a typo, and then on the third line where you say the commission shall not approve any new dock and pier proposals. I think it was a policy, so is disinclined to approve
Okay.
pier and docks. I think is more in line with what the policy stated.
Okay, anything else, Mary?
That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Team, any other comments or any other corrections or concerns with the June 20th meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the June 20th meeting minutes as amended, suggested by Mary.
So moved.
Okay, Diane, you're on mute. If you're, we have a
I was
motion.
moving, I just wasn't hearing.
Okay, we need a second.
Second,
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Mary.
Yes. Aye.
Woody. Woody.
I'm gonna abstain. I don't think I was at that meeting.
Very good point, Woody. Thank you. Brad.
Aye.
Mick, you probably weren't at that meeting either.
I abstain. I was not an official member at that point.
Okay, TJ,
Aye.
Diane,
yes,
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, thank you. July 18th meeting. Any comments or corrections on the meeting minutes that are in the Dropbox?
Unless Brad changed the spelling of his name under administration on the last page. Correction there.
I let that go.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Any other
No.
comments? Okay. Team, anyone else have a comment or correction? Brad, we'll have to check his birth certificate and check the spelling, make sure.
All good.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the July 18th meeting minutes with the correction to Brad's name.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
second,
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Mary,
Yes.
Woody,
Aye.
Mick,
Aye.
TJ,
I don't believe I was there at that meeting. I'm going to abstain.
okay, Diane,
yes,
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right, thank you.
I think you forgot me, Bob.
Oh, Brad,
I also say aye.
okay, sorry about, how can I forget you, Brad? My God, that,
Oh, well, you spelled my name wrong.
I spelled your name wrong.
well,
Okay.
I read the minutes. Thank God Mary's actually reading these with a proofreading background.
I just realized I was not at that meeting either, so I don't know if that affects our vote, but
I think we have 4. Woody voted yes,
Yeah.
Brad voted yes, so we have a quorum of votes.
Sam's frozen. Oh, there she goes.
Okay, Sam, do you have a fire alarm going off in your building or anything?
We don't, not tonight, thankfully.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, so first order of business, a certificate of compliance, DEP file number 0501222 for 335th Street. A request for a certificate of compliance for work to raise and rebuild an existing single-family structure with associated site work. Sam, can you provide an overview and a recommendation on this matter?
Yep, so this one was for the demolition and reconstruction of the existing house. Mary will probably remember getting the amendment for this one after I can't remember who the original owners of the property were. I think the last name was Kelly. And when CJ Doherty bought the property, he basically just kind of within the same or similar footprint of the original approval, just did basically just a different architectural design, but everything else was the same for the most part. We did a big amendment for that one a while ago. And since then, everything has been completed. There were some plantings that were done out there. There's no requirement for survivability on those, but all the plantings do appear to be in. I believe there's actually more plantings than there were originally approved. I did do the inspection and everything. Everything looks pretty good. So my recommendation would be for a complete certificate. And we do have Devin Morse from Hancock here if anybody has any questions
Okay.
for her.
Questions from the members? Mary, any questions for Devin on this?
I would just ask if Devin has any further comments other than what was already stated.
No, the only additional comment that I have is that there were a few deviations which were noted in my request for certificate of compliance narrative. So just to cover those, no fireplace was constructed. And then as Sam said, there was a few additional shrub plantings, beech rose and beech plum that were installed on the site. So I think that was about it. But thank you.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Woody, any comments on this one?
No comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Brad, any comments on this?
No,
certificate?
Mr. Chair, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Mick, any comments on this one?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, TJ, how about yourself? Any comments on this?
No, I'm good.
Diane?
Across the street, it looks good to me.
Okay, and I have no questions. All right, is there a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 335th Street?
So moved.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay. All right, roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Mary?
Yes,
TJ?
Yes,
Woody?
Yes,
Brad?
Aye.
Mick?
Aye.
Diane?
Yes.
And Bob Connors votes yes. Okay,
Thank you so much and have a wonderful night.
You
thank
too,
you.
Devin.
You do it.
Okay, next order of business is a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 0501389 for 68 Green Street. A request for a certificate of compliance for work to construct a new single-family dwelling with associated appurtenances in site work. Been a long day for me. My day starts
A long work.
early. Sam, can you provide an overview and a recommendation on this one?
Yes, so this one is, we're in kind of a funky situation for this one. Very shortly after we got the COC request, we also got a call from one of the neighbors at number 70 that was concerned about some of the runoff from the property. There was pretty significant, from what we can tell from some of the videos that we got, there was some pretty significant water diversion that was actually coming onto his property. We did myself and Martha Taylor, as well as I believe Joe Sawarka was out there, and a couple other people from Crane Properties and TJ Melvin from Millennium all went out and did a site walk last Friday to look into everything. As of right now, I think we're going to table the COC request for right now while they get some other stuff figured out. TJ is here, and I know we had talked about potentially using maybe an enforcement order maybe to get some stuff, get some work mandated. I don't know if that was something that he determined was going to be something that we're going to ask about or not. And I don't know if TJ, if you want to give a kind of overview of what you were looking at. I know we were discussing a few different things while we were out there. There's stuff that needs to be addressed before we can actually close everything out. So I don't know if there's going to need to be any major changes or anything, but we definitely want to get that addressed before we issue the COC for this one and close it out. So if you have anything to add, TJ, we can do that right now and figure out how we need to move forward with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, TJ Melvin with Millennium Engineering. As Sam mentioned, we were out there last week to look at some of the potential drainage issues going on. I have a draft plan. I did not submit it yet. I was working on it today. I just wanted to, if it's okay, share with the commission what we're thinking for potential solutions. So what we have going on out there is, I mean, obviously we got a rather extreme rain event. 3 to 4 inches in a couple of hours is not something that's typically designed for. but help point out some of the issues that are happening on the site. The site itself is still partially under construction. The roadway's in. This lot is mostly constructed, just some vegetation growth is still needed in the backyard. And a couple of the issues that we noticed out there was some of the drainage for the roadway. We have just roadside swales getting into some catch basins that ultimately discharge to constructed wetland. It looks like that berm had been overtopped. So at that point, we're planning on building that up and making sure that it actually gets into the system as it was designed to. Some of the backyard pitches towards the abutting property. Ultimately, the rear of the yard flows down towards a wetland. It looks like a large part of that meadow does eventually flow towards the abutting property, but between the roof and really the bare soil at this point, just causing extra runoff. So if it'd be okay, I'll pull up my plan here. So as I mentioned, this was the area here kind of behind the house where we noticed there was some ponding over here on the abutting property. So our plan is to really define a swale and a berm to just really prevent, there's not a ton of runoff that's coming from this area, but either way, just make sure it's collected and directed towards the wetland as it's supposed to be going. This was the roadside swale I had discussed. We noticed that kind of the berm was breached through here, and water kind of pulled some mulch across the driveway. You could really see the flow of water coming in this direction here. Then the other issue was we have kind of an existing low spot here right now. Again, this really isn't 100% complete. So there is a dip here. So we're proposing to, fill that in and let the water travel towards the wetland as it was designed to, rather than bypassing it and just making this problem even worse. There are gutters on the house, and the contractor is going to verify exactly where they go. We believe that they just kind of go down into like a stone strip on either side of the house. So when we get a significant rain event, it's just going to back up and onto the yard. So we're proposing to at least catch this portion of the house and direct it into the constructed wetland. This portion, we wouldn't be able to get it to really work just with the grades. It's a long run. This initially, the approved design did not include catching this house. But we think, at least taking a portion of the house and getting it over there would definitely benefit, the neighbors. And really, once this is stabilized, I think that will reduce a good amount of the runoff that's kind of just traveling this way now.
TJ, where is the house that the neighbor was concerned?
He's right about here,
Okay.
right here, actually. So yeah, they had some significant water kind of traveling through this area, especially in their backyard. Which there are definitely signs. You can see some rilling in the soil through here, up through here, kind of making its way. And then I know it's quite a ways away from the wetland, but I at least will address it. There was kind of like some ponding here. This is all supposed to swale and go into Green Street. That's kind of like the subcatchment of where the existing runoff was going previous to the construction. And there's kind of some gravel that got tracked out. So we're proposing to kind of fill this low spot with some crushed stone. And it looks like the swale kind of closed on itself, just creating a puddle there. So we're proposing to, continue it on as it was supposed to be, and add a couple more check dams to just, dissipate the water velocity and really filter anything that would be traveling in this direction here. So that's kind of our initial approach of, what we're planning on doing for the drainage out here. We'll be providing more of a detailed plan, but I just wanted to have something to discuss with you tonight. And I guess I can take any questions from the commission or
Yeah,
Sam
let me start. Does any of the proposed work, do you anticipate it requiring an amendment to the existing order of conditions?
I don't think so. I mean, it's really this small area here that's in the buffer. It's very minor, just kind of shaping the soil that's there now. And then we do have the wetland itself is technically in the buffer, but all the work we're proposing for that is outside of it.
Okay, let me open it up to questions from the members. Mary, any questions to TJ on this matter?
Yes, a couple, just quick ones. So the swale is within the original approved limit of work? Or is
Yes.
it beyond?
Yep, no, it's within it.
Okay, and then redirection of runoff to the constructed wetland, is that gonna impact your volume? Will you have to change we have to adjust the constructed wetland at all?
I haven't run the calculations on it yet.
Okay.
But the portion where I was talking about, I can pull it back up. Make it easier. This area through here was initially designed to go in there. It's just currently a low spot and a lot of it's missing it. So we're just proposing to, have that be built as it was designed. And then really the only additional water we have going there is this portion of the house. Just to try to mitigate some of the water coming off the impervious. Again, the approved plan didn't account for any of the roof runoff getting in there. So we will have to check to make sure that the wetland has enough capacity.
That's all, thank you.
Okay, TJ, any questions?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you, TJ. Woody, any questions for TJ on this?
No, I don't. No, I don't have any questions. I'm gonna log out and log back in. Everybody's frozen and I can barely hear TJ, so someone let me back in.
Okay, thank you, Woody. Brad, any
thank you.
questions? Any questions? on this
Yeah,
one?
yes, Mr. Chair. I'm just kind of curious if the area is still under construction, then why were we considering a certificate of completion?
Yeah,
Good
I
question.
can.
Yeah, TJ, if
So-
you could respond to that?
Yep, no problem. So this area is pretty much completed. It's this kind of area between the lots where it's just kind of bare soil and it's a low spot through here. But the house is constructed, the driveway's in, the plantings are in, the septic system's in. It's just that this hasn't fully grown in at this point. There's some growth starting, but it's definitely not a full grown lawn at this point.
So TJ, I'm just, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm just curious if it's not fully grown in yet and we're seeing this type of erosion. You must have seen it before the storm of last Tuesday. You probably saw some more today. I'm just curious as to why we would be even considering a certificate of completion.
I guess as far as the
Sounds
previous
premature to me. That's all.
Understood. Yeah. Really the events of last week were the first things that brought it to my attention. As far as any issues that previous to that, it's nothing that I'm aware of. But understood regarding the reason for really considering the certificate of completion at this point with the lawn still needing to be grown in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Mick, any questions for TJ on this matter?
Excuse me, just to kind of piggyback on Brad's comment, like I think TJ to the far right or to the east of your diagram there, you stated that we're going to add some riprap and things like that, where things haven't been really. Thank you for bringing it up. Where things haven't been really solidified or kind of finalized, I would be hesitant to issue an order of compliance if you're still going to add certain things to your plan. You said you were going to add certain riprap or things like that to stop erosion control. I think we're more prudent to see if that works before we issue an order of compliance.
Agreed. And I think Sam had kind of mentioned it. The request had been submitted prior to this really being brought to our attention. So yeah, we fully understand that we'd have to complete this work ahead of that. So
it's kind of like, let's see if your plans work first.
Understood.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mick. Diane, any questions for TJ on this matter?
No.
Okay. So TJ, it seems to me that you've got to quantify and submit something to Sam And then we're gonna have to make a determination if it falls within, if the scope exceeds our comfort level, and it may require either a minor modification or an amendment to the original order of conditions. So team, I think well, TJ, let me ask you, we're going to table this matter. You're fine with that, obviously, based on the discussion.
Yes.
And we'll await your resubmittal to Sam, and then we'll follow up with Sam's recommendation back to the commission. To table this, it requires no action. Inaction is in effect tabling it. So, all right, TJ, thank you. We await that. Mary, you have a question?
Just one quick point, and I agree with everything you just said, Bob. Just, is there any risk of this order expiring, or does it need to be continued? No. Okay.
Very good point.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, well, TJ, we look forward to your submittal, and Sam, your recommendation upon viewing it and doing another site walk just to make sure that it's where you want it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a request for determination of applicability. I'm having trouble speaking here tonight. My day starts about 4:30 in the morning lately, it seems. So we have our file number 425 for 297 High Road for work to remove dead ash trees. Sam, can you provide a project overview and a recommendation on this matter?
All right. So this one is it's a little odd. Because there's definitely wetlands on the property. But some of them, I mean, the location of some of the trees is in kind of weird spots. So there's trees over on this side that are definitely kind of just inside of the 100-foot buffer to the wetlands on this side, which is across High Road. There's the ones in here. The main reason why I wanted Jim to do the RDA for this one is because there's wetlands down here on the property, and this kind of whole area in here is all essentially it kind of looks like a bowl when you go out there. It kind of, the topography kind of drops off out behind the house, and it's basically it just kind of looks like a really big swell almost all through this area. So it was a little, aside from having a full-on wetland delineation done, just to remove some dead ash trees that should probably be removed regardless. I figured an RDA would be a pretty safe option, just to have it on the record that we've taken a look at it and that it's been reviewed. But it's all dead ash trees. I've been out there, I've taken a look at them. They're not in great shape, much like many of the ash trees that are out and about in the world still right now. They're all dead and look like they're about ready to topple over. So they definitely need to come out. Jim did have Keith Stromsky out to take a look at it. We have a note here from him advising that the tree should be removed. I believe he's also spoken with the with Tim Lamprey, the tree warden. There's a couple trees that look like they are in the right of way, so those may end up being taken out by the town. But overall, it's a pretty straightforward request, and I would recommend a negative determination. I would say the safest bet would be to do a -3, which is for work within the buffer zone, because we don't have confirmation that there's actually wetlands in any of the areas where the trees are. But we do know that some of them are in the buffer zone. I don't think a -2 would necessarily be needed in this case because we don't have confirmation, but it just seemed like a safe option to have them do an RDA to get these done. And I think that's all I got. We do have Jim Hilton here as well, just in case anybody has any questions for him.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a life safety issue with dead trees, so. Okay, let's open it up to any questions from the members. Mary, any questions on this one? You're on mute, Mary, if you're.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, I have a bunch of questions actually, because this is, I did a drive by and I saw a bunch of trees with had ribbons on them. It seemed like there was at some point in the filing, which was not complete, by the way, the form isn't filled out all the way. So we don't really have a complete filing. There's the wetland boundary doesn't seem to be identified at all. It's just the GIS boundary, which we know isn't right, because it, like Sam said, it does appear there's a lot of red maple and potential wetland within the area that they're proposing to cut these trees. So I wouldn't be in favor of cutting trees in a wetland, even if they were dead. Unless there's some reason for it, they could just continue to provide habitat as they die. If they're trees that are providing, are representing some kind of a safety issue, then that would be different. The arborist report was just said some of the trees, have issues, but there's a lot of trees that are shown to be removed here. And if we count all of those X's as trees to be removed, that's a lot. We don't have any details about whether or not they're going to be stumped, ground, grubbed, what the removal method is. So I think the application is sort of, I understand it's simple in principle and theory, but I just don't think there's enough detail here to be able to figure out whether or not, one, there's work in a wetland, and whether or not the work is likely to affect wetlands, how they're going to get equipment in there. I just have a lot of questions. So
Okay. So you view the application as incomplete?
incomplete at this point. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. TJ, any questions on this one?
Yeah, are any of them up against the house, endangering the house and safety of people inside?
There are several. So there's a few up kind of in the lawn. So the sort of drop off where it goes down into what could potentially be wetlands. It's kind of right in here. So there's a few.
How close are those to the house?
These ones, I mean, they're all just from being out there. I don't know an exact measurement, but the ones that are like kind of out on the street side over here are definitely close enough that if they fell, they're,
They could hit the house.
cars in the driveway, the house over here, the trees that are over here as well. If they fell in the right direction, they could definitely land on the house, or cause some damage. There's also a lot of power lines that go on both sides of the street that they could very easily take out if and potentially when they do fall. I think I would agree with Mary. The ones down here that kind of go off into the drop off, I don't think they're quite close enough that they could cause any damage from what I can remember. Maybe like the tops of the trees may kind of brush up over here, and Jim might have a better idea of that exact measurement. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I guess maybe to add a condition into this that the trees after this drop off could just be cut down to just to trunk it basically, and leave 15-20 feet of the trunk up rather than have the whole entire tree taken out.
Okay. Mary, question, is the tree warden actually going to look at this and do a report, or has the tree warden been out to look at this on the issue of the right of way, where the trees might be in the right of way?
Jim, have you talked to Tim about that? Let's see if we can
Unmute.
I don't know if he's just having some technical difficulties or what. I believe Jim had spoken to.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, now we can.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So I have not, I've spoken with Tim. I have not brought him out to the property. I was hoping that after this meeting that he would come out and determine what trees would be on the town's right of way that are detrimental to either pedestrians or the power lines. Keith Stromke came in and he marked several trees on the right of way. And there are several trees that are on the property that at the back of the lot, I have two sheds that those trees would land on that are dead once they collapse. There are several trees that are on my property or my daughter's property that if they go down will hit the house or do damage to those sheds. So after this meeting, I would contact Tim and have him come out and determine which trees might be responsible for the town versus my property.
Do we have any pictures of the trees in question, Sam or Jim?
I have several pictures, unfortunately, on my cell phone. I should have had those printed and submitted to the committee. That's my bad. But yeah, they're very evident when you go up Newbury Neck Road. There's 10 to 12 trees on my right side, and across the property, there's at least 3 or 4 ash trees that will eventually come down on power lines.
And I have been out there. I did meet Jim out there a while back, probably sometime in the early summer, late spring. And I did take a look at them. They're definitely, if you know what you're looking at, there are definitely a lot of dead trees out there. There's quite a few of them. And you can, like you said, when you go down this road right here, when you go down Newbury Neck Road, there's just a line of dead trees on the side of the road.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Woody, any questions on this matter?
Other than, I don't know what we're gonna do with the incomplete application, but other than that, no, I don't have any questions at the time.
Okay, Mary, I see you. I'll circle back when I'm through with all the members. Mick, any questions on this one?
Yeah, I'm just going to pull on my former forestry background, and I was a certified arborist for some time. Ash trees are a premier species, right? So they're going to come in after your kind of initial species and white pine and everything else, and they're a premier species that inhabit after all the other kind of minor species that have come by. So what's the factor that's causing the ash trees to die, but how dead is another question. So I'm in favor always of removing trees that present a safety hazard. So if they're in danger of falling on a house or falling into the road or falling into power lines, that's a good thing. But I think they also serve as den trees and other factors that help preserve the soil structure, and whether or not we're going to cut these things to the ground and pull the root stumps out, or pull and grind and remove the root stumps, that has an effect on kind of the superficial geology that's in the area and how water flows. So they've grown there naturally. It makes a different kind of scenario if they're planted there, so that's, I think, just getting some more understanding of the history and why those trees were there. They're planted in a line, it looks like, as far as where they put there initially, or what was the initial intent of putting them there. So ash trees are pretty strong, right? I mean, they make baseball bats out of them, they make furniture out of them. They're pretty substantial wooded trees, and so are the root systems. So I'm just concerned with removing what's existing is going to have an effect on what the superficial groundwater flow may be, and other effects on the wetlands around them. So just have we investigated all of that, and do we understand why the trees are there and why we're going to remove them, and which ones we're going to remove?
Okay, thank you, Mick. So Mick, basically you're looking for, and I think it's a good point, a little more detail on the process of removal, elevation? Is it gonna go right to stump removal, or is it, as Sam suggested, creating a 20-foot, drop them at 20 feet and trim off any of the
Yeah.
outcropping branches?
Yeah, just it takes a while for ash trees to establish, so they need certain conditions to establish because they are premier species, as opposed to like just a birch growing up off of duff or a willow or something like that. That's a primary species. So it takes a while for ash trees to get there and get established. So when you do remove them, it has a more significant impact, I think, on the soil and groundwater flow and things like that nature. So
Okay. Thank you, Mick. Diane, any questions on this one?
No, after the letter from the arborist, my only question was how many trees? Because he talks about many in one point, and then another point says 8 should be taken down soon. So that was my only question.
So what you'd like is the actual quantity of trees.
Or a good estimate, somewhere between 8 and many.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay, I have no questions. I'm going to reserve my questions and circle back to Mary. Mary,
Okay.
follow-up questions?
Yeah, no, I was just going to suggest that we do a site visit and preferably at a time when Mick could make it, because it sounds like he's got some good experience with this issue. And maybe we could just see which trees are the most problematic here and where the wetland is on this site, that and how close the removal is to the wetland, and if there is any potential for impact. And then that will provide the applicant some time to complete the application and sign it, and provide some more detail on removal methods and more precise locations. Because I'm concerned there's a lot of clearing here or cutting here, that, you know, what happens to the understory after that, and is there any other further plans for landscaping that's not shown on this plan. So I think it would be a good idea to do a site visit.
No.
Oh, happy to do that.
Okay. All right. Sam, why don't you circulate some dates to the commission members? I'm going to be tied up for the next 2 weeks. Pretty intense schedule on my part, but I certainly rely on Mary and Mick to make a recommendation on this once they get to see it. Do you want to establish, do we want to circulate some dates right now, team, for a site visit?
Fine with me.
Okay. Yep. So typically, Sam, your schedule, when are you in Newbury? What days are you in Newbury? What would be, as a starting point, let's find out what would accommodate your schedule and see how that works with the
So-
members.
I typically do mornings in Newbury. Mondays and Wednesdays I'm here until noon. Thursdays I'm here until 2. Tuesdays I'm here all day.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Let's start with the Monday. And what is the date on Monday?
21st.
Okay. So does August 21st and 8:30, Sam? Is that a good time for you?
That works for me.
Okay. So why don't we start that with we'll circulate that for a site visit, August 21st at 8:30. Mary, how does that work for you?
I can make that work.
Okay. Mick, how about yourself? Will that
Yeah,
work?
I can do that.
Okay. TJ,
I will not be here on Monday,
okay.
not till Monday night, but more important, Mary and Mick go probably. I'll reserve.
Sure.
that.
No, agreed. Woody, how about yourself? Are you available?
Monday works for me.
Okay. Brad, how about yourself?
I am unavailable on Monday.
Okay. Diane, how about yourself?
I can do that.
All right, so why don't we schedule a site visit for Monday, the 21st at 8:30? And we'll just continue this matter or table it to our next meeting. Sam, you need any formal action to accomplish any of this? Are you okay with that?
No, we just need to continue to the September meeting.
Okay. So we're going to continue this matter to the September 5th meeting, and we'll schedule a site visit on the 21st at 8:30.
So moved.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it requires, that's more a statement, I think, than a motion, but, all right, team. Well, James, thank you. And Sam, if you could coordinate with James on that. And if whether or another matter changes, just let the commission know. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll be there at 8:30 on the 21st.
Okay, all right, first public hearing tonight is DEP file number 0501409, 18 Fordham Way, the Blue Inn, for after the fact approval of work to replace 2 sets of beach access stairs. Sam, I think Tom has requested a continuance on this?
Yes, yep, and Tom, you said you wanted to continue to the second meeting in September, right?
Yeah, my first meeting in September is extremely booked, and I'd like to make sure that we fully address DEP comments, and we've also gotten some comments from a member of the public, so we're gonna try our best to address everybody.
Okay, so Tom, you're
So it'll be
requesting,
September 19th,
Yes,
sorry.
you're requesting a continuance to September 19th?
yes.
Okay, is there a motion to continue this
So
public
moved.
hearing to September 19th, the second?
Second,
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Mary,
Yes,
Woody,
Yes,
Brad,
aye.
Mick,
All right,
Diane,
Yes,
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, thank you,
You
Tom.
forgot me, Bob.
Oh,
Aye.
TJ, excuse me. How could I forget you, TJ? You vote as yes, TJ?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next public hearing is DEP file number 0501412, 11 Plumbush Downs for work to construct an addition on an existing structure. Sam, can you provide a project overview and a recommendation on this matter?
Yep, so I think we got a quick presentation from Tom on this one tomorrow, sorry, on this one during our last meeting. Yes, we got one tomorrow.
Right.
So it's basically just an addition on the existing structure, and there's going to be, I believe it was 2 footings for the deck that need to be replaced. And it's very close to the salt marsh and everything. So we did the NOI for this one. It's a pretty straightforward project. We do have the file number now, so unless there's any questions, comments, concerns, or requests for anything, I think we should hopefully be all set to get this one out the door today.
Okay, I didn't see any technical comments on the DEP website. All right, Tom, why don't you give us your best 5 minutes in this one, because you're.
I'm gonna try
pretty
to
good
make
deal.
it 3, because we went through it all last time, so I don't think there's a lot that we need to do this time. Okay, hold on just 1 second. I need to. Try this again. Okay, so this is 11 Plumbush Downs. And the area of work is where this deck will be an addition, and then there'll be a cantilever deck that kind of comes out in triangular shape out over lawn. We have a salt marsh boundary. All of Plumbush Downs is within the Great Marsh ACEC, but since we're already within a developed portion of the property within lawn, we don't impact any of the ACEC values for which it was listed, which is what the Wetland Protection Act regulation criteria is about. For those of you guys new to town, here's where Plumbush Downs is. But then for all of you, because I know you already know where it is, here's a close-up of what the site looks like. It's the last one within the condo section of Plumbush Downs. It's this unit here, and all the work proposed is within the exclusive use area of this single-family home. The project is located within the AE 13 and within the limit of moderate wave action. That just implicates sort of how building code applies to it. All the work that's proposed is above the flood elevation in terms of the first floor height and the deck height, and complies with building code. So here's a view of the area where the addition is going. This is the area that will be used for getting in and out. of the work area. Again, here's the deck. Here's the view of the marsh and the marsh boundary. It's a pretty marked boundary. It's kind of a historic edge of fill. This is a view of the project, both existing and proposed. We're kind of just giving you an idea of what's going on. And then again, here's a plan view. These are the 2 footings that are being replaced. The remaining footings we believe can all be reused. And the deck is this triangular thing that will be cantilevered off the new addition. It's a really straightforward project. The NOI is more about its location than it is anything complex with the project. So with that, unless the commission's got any questions that I can answer, I would like to ask the commission to hear from abutters and then move forward and approve this.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Mary, any questions for Tom on this matter?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, thank you, Mary. TJ, any questions for Tom on this matter?
I do not.
Woody, how about yourself? Any questions for Tom?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Bob.
Brad, any questions on this one?
Not at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Mick, any questions?
A couple of quick ones. Tom, I appreciate the explanation, and we saw this last week, and forgive me if I didn't remember from last meeting. Your access area, I guess, is along the western side of the property.
Right.
Actually, northern side of the property. Do you have any, like, what do you expect to bring in? Are you bringing in skid steers? You're bringing in a front end loader?
I mean, I think at most it's going to be, you know, a mini would probably be the biggest thing we might bring in.
Mini X or, yeah.
Yeah, and that would really, it's just for putting in the footings.
Okay.
You know, and beyond that, it's, you know, you're framing up, doing all that kind of stuff. You don't really need a lot of big equipment. You know, maybe a forklift bringing some materials back.
Yeah.
But we
A
don't
lull
need
or something
anything
like that.
Yeah, and there's no way we're getting in past this stuff, right? So
Right.
this is really our only access, and this width right here certainly limits what we can bring in. We're not bringing a D9. We're not bringing it, you know, nothing
Understood.
massive coming in there.
Yeah. Is there any additional like siltation barrier that you think is needed, or do you have in your
Just
plans?
what we show. This gold is our perimeter control and our limiter.
Okay. All right. And you lay down what do you expect your lay down area to be?
Well, we've got this driveway area here. We show
Okay.
a dumpster location right here if we need one. A project this size, oftentimes the contractor will choose just to use their truck.
Daily load, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that was it. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Brad, I see you. I'll circle back. I'm gonna go to Diane. Diane, any questions for Tom on this project?
No,
Okay, Brad, I see you have your hand up. What follow-up questions do you have?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom, do you anticipate driving piles over there with
No.
the?
No,
Is
I believe that we already have sonotube footings that have been deemed adequate, except 2 of them that need to be replaced. So it's going to be, you know, it's going to be footings, either Bigfoot or new sonotubes, but we're not looking at driving piles.
That kind of surprises me because that area sees a lot more water than some areas on true Plum Island.
Right.
With that being on the other side of the bridge, sometimes seems to I know it doesn't fall within the Plum Island overlay district, but the amount of water that comes across Plum Bush in onto the turnpike is considerable, and I'm surprised that we wouldn't be requiring pilings over there.
No, understood. And what it really is about on Plum Island is the building code incorporated barrier beaches, which are comprised of sand, which moves around in a big storm event. The landmass that we're on here is actually fill on top of peat, on top of clay. It behaves differently. And so as long as we have a structurally sound support that is columnar as it comes out of the ground for the water to move in and out and around, that's the more important thing in this landmass. And And Bob knows this all too well, how much what looks like a stable landform moves around during a storm on Plum Island. He's seen it firsthand in singular storms move 20, 30 feet where he's at easily. I mean, I know Bob and I both saw a 10-ton piece of concrete move, 200 feet down the beach during one storm. That kind of energy doesn't hit this area. It's AE 13. It is within. There's certainly going to be some water movement. This area does get inundated frequently. But
I've personally, excuse me, Tom, I've personally seen some pretty good wave action coming right across that whole area.
oh, absolutely. And as I noted, it's within the limit of moderate wave action, which means it's mapped by FEMA as having, 1 to 2 foot waves. So it definitely gets it. And that's so the structure that's coming out of the ground, I guess is my point. That's what's most important, is that can take the wave action. It doesn't need to go deep because the landmass is not going to erode away from it.
So do you have a drawing of what that actual footing looks like? Is that
I don't think I have that level of detail yet. The project's been designed by the architect. We would certainly accept a condition that we submit that prior to construction.
I'd certainly like to see it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. Any other questions from the members before I open this up to the public for comments? I would just offer that this area wouldn't be subject to coastal scour, which is what we typically are concerned with on
Agreed.
Plum Island. But
Agreed.
okay, Sam, I see that my good friend Steve Manchin has his hand up. Are there any other members from the public, just so we can put him in the queue, or is it just Steve?
I believe it's just Steve.
All right, Steve, good evening. What questions, what comments do you want to make tonight on this project?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the chance to make a comment or two. When Brad mentioned something about how he's seen wave activity going across the marsh, that brought to mind during the course of this meeting the blizzard of '78, when some of you may know that after the blizzard, there were, shall we say, large chunks of ice, big chunks of ice, thick chunks of ice that were up on the Plum Island Turnpike. So things can happen in that part of the mainland, shall we say. And I don't know whether that concern would come under the, or would be a concern for the Conservation Commission, but I just want to note that there can be ice transport when you've got a spring tide, a storm, and it's wintertime. So perhaps you want to talk about that a little bit. My original comment had to do something that was a bit jurisdictional as well. The PIOD was mentioned, and my understanding was that the PIOD stopped at the bridge, but I recall that during the discussion about the Pink House not so long ago, and I don't recall whether Sam was at that meeting or not, it was said that the Pink House was going to be subject to the PIOD. And I was kind of nonplussed by that, because again, my understanding was that the PIOD came to an end at the bridge. But the way the discussion went, to the best of my recollection, the discussion coming down was saying the PIOD did apply to the area of the Pink House. And if it applies there, I would think it might have some bearing on this project. Now, I'm not saying don't do this project, but there might be some need for clarification for future work that's done on this side of not this side, but the west side of the bridge, about whether the PIOD has any applicability, and if it does, where does it come to an end? So I guess my two major comments would be, we want to be concerned about ice transport, which would affect the structural underpinnings, and two, does the PIOD have any bearing on this? And if it does or does not, maybe we ought to check to make sure that it's applied to the Pink House should any reconstruction of the Pink House occur, since that's also one of those things that's on the back burner, but is on the burner right now. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Steve, for the record, can you just give your address? I'm sorry, should have requested that you.
Certainly. This is Steve Manchin on 14th Street on Plum Island.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Mary, I see your hand up. I have just one comment for Tom. Tom, the construction standards are governed by the state building code.
Right,
And that's
absolutely.
determined by the FEMA maps as far as what type of construction
Right.
standard needs to be deployed.
Absolutely.
On the PIOD, I think it's an interesting question.
Well, I know the answer.
But it's a floor area. I mean, it's more a floor area lot coverage in this matter than anything else.
Right. So what I can tell you is my understanding is the PIOD covers all of Plum Bush Downs.
Yeah, that's my
And
understanding.
this is part of a condo lot that is extremely large. And so our lot coverage is so tiny and we don't increase the building height. So my understanding from the building inspector's preliminary review is we don't trigger a special permit under the PIOD for this project. But that's up to the building inspector and that's a zoning issue. It's not a conservation issue. Now I want to remind you now with regards to, wave action, water action, ice action, look at the existing home, right? This existing home is solid down to the ground. We're talking about an addition that's going to be elevated up, but the home itself is already more of an impediment than anything we're proposing. I think this is a relatively small project. It's going to comply with building code. I think it does not adversely affect any of the resource areas, and I think it fully complies with the performance standards of the Wetland Protection Act, which is what applies. The bylaw does not apply here. And
So,
and
Tom,
given that,
one quick question, Tom.
sure.
This is not going before the ZBA. The building inspector is not required a ZBA review.
No, not at this time, although, I guess he has up until we pull the building permit to make that determination. But he's already preliminarily reviewed this and said no.
Okay. Tom, let me hold you there. Mary has a hand up. Mary, what follow-up questions do you have for?
Just a quick point, the Plum Island Overlay District does include Plum Bush. It also includes some areas on the south side of the Plum Island Turnpike where the Pink House is. That is different than our bylaw, obviously, which is just the Barrier Beach that has jurisdiction. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Okay, I'm going to go around to the members one more time. TJ, any follow-up questions on this matter?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, Woody, any follow-up questions?
No, I'm good, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Woody. Brad, any follow-up questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mick, anything you want to add or any other questions you have for Tom? You may be on mute, Mick, if you. Okay, I'm going to take that. Mick's all set. Diane, any follow-up questions?
No.
Okay, and I have no follow-up questions. And Sam, there's no other raised hands from the public?
Not that I can see. And I don't have any questions. You guys are all on top of this stuff with with clarifying everything with the PIOD and everything like that. So way to go, you guys.
Okay, all right. Do any members have a request for a site visit on this project?
No.
Okay, are there any requests for additional information or plan amendment or adding additional content to the notice of intent?
No.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing unless we have any further questions.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Mary,
Yes.
TJ,
aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Mick,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right, well, team, I'll entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions for 11 Plum Bush Downs with the usual conditions. And do we have any special conditions we may want to consider at this point? Mary, any special conditions that you feel would be,
No, I thought the filing was pretty complete. I'm
as they
comfortable.
always are with Tom? Okay, so we have no request for special conditions. All right, Do we have a motion to issue the order of conditions as presented with the usual conditions?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. All those in favor, say aye. Mary,
Yes,
TJ,
aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
I,
Mick, Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Okay.
Hi, Tom. Thank you.
Next public hearing is for DEP file number 0501411 291 293 High Road for work to replace the existing septic system with associated site work. Sam, can you provide an overview or recommendation? And is there someone that's going to present for the applicant?
Yes, hi, good evening, Commissioners. Dan Ottenheimer with Mill River Consulting in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Can you hear me okay?
We
Yes.
can, Dan. Welcome.
Great. So you may recall we discussed this at the meeting last time, and if it's okay, I'll share my screen and we'll refresh your memory. We are looking to replace the two septic systems at what you know to be the kayak shop just before you get over the Parker River on Route 1A. There's also a dwelling on the property, and each are proposed to have new contemporary septic systems installed. And as part of that work, a dilapidated wooden structure will be taken down because the two leach fields will be placed right where that wooden structure is located. The commission correctly pointed out at the meeting last time that I had not classified the coastal bank, and 100% correct, and I apologize, and I'm sorry that you had to call that out. So previously we had identified the coastal bank down here at the Parker River, but it turns out when you look at the DEP policy, the coastal bank is coincident with the land subject to coastal storm flowage located right over here. So we now have the 100-foot buffer zone to coastal bank within our construction zone. So as the commission knows, the review standards for work within a buffer zone to a coastal bank, if the bank is not providing sediment to the resource area, then it's just a question of whether the work would potentially destabilize the bank. And I'll just show you a picture. This is the dilapidated building that's going to be taken down on the right. This lawn area in front of it is where the work zone is. To the left of this tree is where the coastal bank is determined to be. So we have at least 25 feet of clearance plus some stable ground between the work zone and the top of the coastal bank. So I trust you'll concur that there would not be any destabilization of the coastal bank as part of this construction project. Obviously, the work zone would be surrounded by straw wattle during construction, and that's the scope of what we're looking to discuss with you.
Okay, let me open this up to questions from the members. Mary, do you have any questions for Dan on this?
no, thank you for making that change. And I think that you had said you already have Board of Health approval on this.
So yes, the Board of Health approved both septic systems, but with the coastal bank now, let me share my screen again, please. So the Board of Health has previously approved both septic systems. However, the one that serves the house, I am going back to the Board of Health next week or 2 weeks from now, just to get their final blessing on reducing the setback from the bank to the leach field.
Okay.
And I do not expect any issues with that whatsoever.
Okay. Great. I think as long as, we're staying within the limit of work that you've identified and you're not working on the bank or changing any thing on the bank itself, then I'm comfortable with what you've shown us.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. TJ, any questions on this matter?
No, other than if there are changes from the Board of Health, maybe that can go in the order conditions. We get re-notified.
Okay, Woody, any questions on this one? Okay, Brad, any questions on this matter?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, a couple things, Dan. Is there any concern with the root structure of those trees that are adjacent to where you're going to be doing the excavation for the leach field?
So I believe you're referring to,
If you go to the pictures you showed,
right,
yes.
right. So certainly not this major tree that's on the left. We're not going to be working anywhere near the root structure of that. This is an opportunistic evergreen of some sort that's growing right adjacent to this dilapidated structure, and that tree will need to be removed as part of the construction work.
Good. The one other thing, Mr. Chair, as a practice, I wouldn't say a policy, but as a practice, we could only conditionally approve this should the Board of Health not make any changes to their previous approval based on the new delineation of the coastal bank. Typically, we wouldn't even be listening to the applicant until the Board of Health had approved.
You know, Dan, correct me, you're going back, you got your approval on the actual design and location. You're going back to the Board of Health, I'm going to say more as a courtesy to let them know there's been a change to the plan, identifying that the coastal bank.
That's a perfect summary. Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Mick, any comments for Dan?
No, I'm sure I probably know the answer, Dan, but your soil hydrology supports your distance from the edge of the leach field to the river. No.
Well, we don't have
Hello?
fire alarms. We have the gremlins of Town Hall, I guess, picking up tonight. So Mick, why don't you repeat your question for Dan, if you would?
I'm not sure he came back in yet, but
Okay. Sam, does Dan have to be readmitted? Excuse me, Mick need to be readmitted to the meeting?
Yeah, I got kicked out too, but I'm back.
Okay. Well, I guess the question was, Dan, you heard, you have clarity on what Nick was asking. You want to respond to his question?
Yes, correct. So I spent a day out there with the health inspector doing multiple test holes and percolation tests, and we have a very good handle on the hydrology and the soils at this site, and they're very comfortable that we've designed a good septic system that's going to properly treat the wastewater from these two structures. So I have no concern about the hydrology.
Okay. Diane, do you have any questions for Dan on this matter?
No.
Okay. So I think Brad's question is a good one on the Board of Health approval. But Brad, I actually view it that it has been approved, and really this is more just a minor change to the plan. That is a courtesy, Dan's going back to the Board of Health just to give them an update on it. But Mary, how do you see that? What's your thoughts?
We are required, the the way the act reads, the applicant is required to apply for any local approvals that are required for a project at the time that they apply for the Conservation Commission, or that you have a hearing. So they would have had it to at least apply. They don't have to have all their local approvals
Right.
for us to act.
Okay. All right, Brad, does that answer your question on that? Are you okay with that? You comfortable with that? I know in the past we've asked for a continuance pending the Board of Health approval to avoid having to do an amendment or a minor modification. Brad, you're on mute if you have any follow-up on that. Okay. Woody, any questions for Dan?
No, no questions. Thank you. I'm sorry, I keep losing Wi-Fi here.
Okay. All right, Sam, any raised hands from the public at this time? I guess this is the one drawback to doing Zoom meetings is that every now and then we get this. Let me just see if
It's usually pretty good.
yeah, no, this is probably the only one. Okay, I don't see any raised hands here. I don't see anyone here that's not already present. All right, do any members have a request for a site visit on this project? Or additional information or plan amendment or adding additional content to the notice of intent? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay, roll call and vote. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Mary,
Yes.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad,
He's gone.
okay, Mick,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, is there a motion to issue an order of conditions for 291 and 293 High Road with the usual conditions? And I'm going to suggest that, Dan, maybe we can incorporate one special condition that if there is anything the Board of Health deems as an issue, Dan, that you bring it to the attention of the conservation agent here or to the commission if she feels it's something of significance.
Of course, it's not a problem whatsoever, or if you would want to just hold off on issuing, have your staff hold off on issuing the order until we get the Board of Health approval, that's fine as well, however you'd like to do it.
Okay, Mary, does that sound like a plan? Just to have that as a special condition? Comes back.
Just as a special, yes, we have no say on the design.
Right,
The
right.
system itself, but if the location changes,
If it impacts the plan
Yep.
before it.
right.
Okay.
Mm.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Roll call vote. Mary,
Yes.
TJ,
Aye.
Woody,
Aye.
Brad, Mick,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, Sam, so you have clarification on that. If there's any issues, if the plan has to get changed for any reason, then just bring it to the attention of the agent. All right, thank you, Dan. Okay,
Of
next.
course,
public-
commissioners, thank you very much.
Okay, good night.
Good night,
The
Dan.
next public hearing is DEP file number 0501413 7 Marsh Avenue for work to demolish an existing structure and conduct a site cleanup. Sam, can you provide a project overview and a recommendation on this matter? Sam, you're on mute if you. Okay. All right, is there anyone for the applicant here that wants to make a presentation?
Yes, good evening, TJ Melvin with Millennium Engineering, here with me tonight, the applicant Peter LaRiviere. So this parcel, we had been in front of the commission, I believe it was 2021, for an ANRAD We had made some modifications to the resource areas and the buffers, and you guys did issue the ORED on this. If it'd be okay, I'll share my screen to show you the plan.
Okay.
So since that time, we've had an A&R plan endorsed by the planning board. And this is the lot in question. This is the existing, it's really a rundown house, located at 7 Marsh Ave. And at this point, the applicant is just looking to demolish it, rip out the foundation and loam and seed, any disturbed areas required to do so. We're not proposing any work at this time. And really he just wants to take that down. We are within the 200-foot riverfront area of the Parker River. And we are just outside the 100-foot. And we're also within, we on the ANRAD had called this kind of like a wetland resource buffer. It's a mix between the buffer to BVW and Coastal Bank. So with that, it's again kind of a straightforward one. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay, let me just see if Sam, are you back? Do you have any comments or an overview on this?
I am back. I'm sorry. I'm just having some connection issues. I need to kind of get some stuff figured out on this end. So hopefully you being the host should fix that.
Okay. All right, questions, Mary, any questions on this matter?
Couple questions for you, TJ. There are a couple of outbuildings shown. You're going to keep those in place. Is that right?
No, those will actually.
Those
be
are coming
removed.
down too? Okay.
Yeah, one of them, this one may actually be already down.
Okay. And then my only comment really is, I mean, this is a restoration of the riverfront area. So what's to complain about here? This is a good thing. But if there is future development on this site and a new house proposed, by taking this building down, you won't be able to take advantage of the redevelopment provisions of the regulations. This will have to be in new development provisions under the riverfront regs with, the full alternatives analysis. So I just wanted to point that out and make sure that the applicant is aware that if there is future development proposed at this site, and they want to do it anywhere near where this house is now, having it in place at the time of filing makes a difference in terms of the regulations and whether redevelopment provisions prevail or new development provisions are applied.
This is Peter Laravier. I didn't raise my hand. I don't know if that's against the
Yeah,
rule.
Peter, just to identify your address and your relationship to the.
Yeah, I'm the owner of the property.
Okay.
I currently live at 17 Marsh Ave, but I bought this whole parcel of property, which was approximately 8 acres, and then submitted a plan to develop it, but at a minimal development. So I'm trying to preserve as much as the wooded area as possible. So my intention is this house is falling apart. It's relatively small house. TJ went over what we would like to do. But my intention is to clean the property up, remediate, again, taking the house down, but then I will be marketing this lot for future development. My challenge at this point is when I bring potential buyers down, they see the house sitting there. It's an eyesore, doesn't have obviously good curb appeal. So I can say almost exclusively every potential buyer for this property has said, I'll reconsider when the house is gone. But to Mary's point, I'm not that familiar with, what that would limit in the future if I were to take this down. What, I guess what that would preclude if someone wanted to build within the 200-foot buffer zone there, within the 100 to 200 feet. My recommendation to most is to stay outside the 200 feet because I live on the property adjacent to this. My daughter will as well. And we really don't want someone to come in and just build a house right on the bank there and then block any neighbor's views of the river, or again, do anything that would be detrimental to the riverbank. just really trying to preserve the current natural setting that we have here on Marsh Ave. So I just don't know what limitations, when Mary brought that up, maybe you could just describe to me, does that limit the ability to build in there, or does it basically nullify any future ability to build?
Well, it's a good question. What under the new development standards, you have to stay out of the riverfront area if there's an alternative. So there's quite a bit of land outside of the riverfront area that appears to be buildable. So you would have, and essentially, because of the shape of the lot and where the riverfront area is on the site, there's ample opportunity to stay outside of it. So yes, you probably would have to.
But if I were to leave the house as is, and then the future owner submitted an NOI with the intent to build where the current structure is, then that would be allowed?
Yeah, yes. It depends on the size of the structure and what is proposed, but the redevelopment standards say you can't go any closer to the river than the existing development, and you have to, and your overall project has to result in an improvement to the riverfront area somehow. So it's not a given that you could put any size house over the same footprint of this existing building. But I think probably TJ could advise you a little bit about this, and you might want to just have a conversation about it before we lock you in on anything at this point. I mean, certainly from our perspective, it's great. You want to clear up take out structures from the riverfront area and revegetate it. That's a plus for us, and I'm assuming we'd all approve that in a heartbeat. But it could change your calculations for what you could do in the future. Again, it depends on what size building was proposed.
Right.
Let me do this. Let's go to the other members and see if there's any additional questions. We can circle back one more time. TJ Conti, that is, any questions?
Yes, so if we were to vote on this and approve this, as Mary said, why wouldn't we? Does that then, could the owner not execute that permit to do that and ask for a building permit later? Or once we vote that in, does that lock in the fact that nothing else can happen to that building other than take it down?
He would have 3 years to do the work.
Right, but
Or
could he
he could
change
not
his
do the
mind
work.
before he takes it down? Could he change his mind and
Yes.
execute a building permit?
Well, you'd have to come back with
Apply for
another-
another
yeah,
building permit,
You
yes.
could apply for a certificate of compliance saying the work was never done.
right.
Okay,
Or come back in for a new order of conditions for a project.
This
This would
is
have to be closed out one way or another. Yeah.
Right.
correct, okay.
So hypothetically, if I were to get approval and a permit to tear this down, I have 3 years to perform the work. If I was to discuss with potential buyers that I haven't torn the building down, I have a permit to do it, but if I do this, then that kind of precludes or limits maybe what you can do in the future. So therefore, it may be in their best interest to perform the demolition of the building. Would they have to go for a new permit, or I would imagine if the scope changed, they would have to reapply. Is that correct?
Well, I'm going to make a suggestion. You probably would better serve yourself if you applied for a structure replacing this. And then if a new buyer wanted to do an amendment to your approval, they could do that, but that may be the best way to lock in the rights that you currently have as redevelopment versus new development.
Well, if I could just add
Yeah,
to that,
please.
Bob, without going too far down the line of advising somebody what to do with their property, but even if the house was outside of the riverfront area, that's previously developed, that could be patio, could be
Right.
access, walkways or something like that. So it's just something to keep in mind. I didn't feel comfortable not letting you know that that was
Or no.
how it would be viewed.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Woody. I've lost my place here. Woody, do you have any questions on this? Woody, you're on mute if you have questions. Okay, I'll circle back to you. Brad, any questions on this matter?
I got disconnected.
Okay. Mick, any questions on this one?
No, I do not. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, Diane, any questions on this matter?
Just one, when you're saying you're gonna loam in seed, what's the seed? Is it lawn or I haven't seen what's there and I didn't read anywhere what it was gonna be.
We were just proposing lawn at this point.
Okay.
Is there lawn there now? I mean, like around where the house is?
Not like well maintained, but it's not, we kind of have this whole thing shown as wooded, but there's definitely some space around the house. It was really minimizing the disturbance to get in there and out without, just going through a full restoration planting plan.
Right now, it's mostly muddy dirt. On either side of the house with some vegetation. There's no lawn.
So TJ, do you want to further discuss other development opportunities or strategies and request a continuance, or do you want to proceed as presented?
That would be my suggestion to Peter, unless you want to move forward. I know we had discussed that previously, but I guess Peter, I would leave it up to you if you want to move forward with this or just continue out.
Yeah, I didn't know how constraining a future permit would be if a potential buyer was interested in building within the 200-foot boundary. So maybe at this point I could take a step back, and then I might come back with this actual plan, or maybe something different. If I put a structure in there, and then that might allow the future owner at least a little bit more flexibility moving forward.
Okay, so are you going to request a continuance on the public hearing, pending what your final determination?
Yes.
Okay. TJ, do you want to continue this to September 5th or September 19th? Those are the next two scheduled meetings.
Peter, would you want to go out to the 19th to give us time to discuss them? And if
I guess in my mind, I'm not sure exactly what would be required, but if I were to show another structure, let's say similar to what exists there now, and asked to tear down the building with, again, future intentions of a potential structure being within, say in the same footprint. I'm not sure how long, TJ, that would take you to put together. So it's really up to you. I could go with the 5th or the 19th, either one. Probably more.
I guess let's continue to the 5th for now. And if need be, we'll submit a request ahead of time.
Okay. All right. So there's a request to continue the public hearing on 7 Marsh Avenue to September 5th. Do we have a motion to continue this public hearing to September 5th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Mary?
Yes.
TJ?
Aye.
Woody? Brad? Mick?
Aye.
Diane?
Yes.
And Bob Connors votes yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that is our last matter besides administration. Sam, poor Sam, these gremlins are killing her. Sam, are you back?
I am, and I thankfully got most of that. So I got that we're doing a continuance, and I just got a text from Woody. Apparently he's having some connection issues as well.
I can imagine.
So
the good thing is we had a quorum of the members that voted continuing this, so
all right.
And it's going to be continued to September 5th.
Yes, yeah.
All right, Sam, any staff reports or updates you want to bring up? And if not, we can move right down the list.
Nope, I don't have anything. I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Sam. All right, CSO release discussion. TJ, it was TJ's issue. I don't think, is TJ gone? I don't see
No,
him.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. TJ, any comments on, oh, excuse me, Brad.
Yeah, it's Brad.
That
no,
was Brad, but
Very hard to confuse you with Brad, by the way, TJ. Okay. Team, that's basically it. Why don't we go around for a final discussion, final comments? Mick, any points you want to add? Any comments you want to make?
No, I just think that I know that CSO is a hot topic, and that was a good one that Brad is very interested in. So we just continue that to the next meeting.
Yeah, Brad mentioned that there was a city councilor in Newburyport that was kind of taking up the charge in the Newburyport community, and I think Brad was talking to him about certainly having considering a sewer tie-in moratorium for these communities that do not have capacity to treat their current wastewater.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of experience with CSOs. I mean, the company I work for, we maintain them, install them, update them. There's a lot of kind of convoluted regulations associated with what's grandfathered, what's not. So it really is a hot topic, and but a very important topic. And I'll just say up front, I don't know enough about it really to offer more at this point, but it's something I've been reading up a lot, and something I think we just need to get our hands around.
Yeah, well, I think we're just going to leave it on the under administration for the time being until the commission decides we're not going to. Anything else, Mick, before I move on?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Mary, any final comments that you want to offer?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you, Mary. TJ, any comments?
Nope.
I think Woody is still probably trying to get in, but Woody, any?
Brad too.
Brad?
He's trying.
Hey, Diane, you look like you have a question for.
I do not. I was just laughing because Woody probably gave up.
Okay, I have no questions. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Roll call. Mary?
Yes.
TJ?
Aye.
Woody? Brad? Mick?
Aye.
Diane?
Yes.
And Bob Connors votes yes. Let the record show, we've concluded this meeting at 7:38 p.m.
Good job.
Yeah, great job, team. Thank you.
See you,
Thank you.
some of you on Monday.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll see you the 21st. Good to meet you in person.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.